Welcome to the Smarter Science of Slim, the scientifically proven program where you eat more and exercise less to burn fat and boost health.
Eat smarter, exercise smarter, live better. I am so ready for that.
Hey everybody, Jonathan Bailor, thrilled to be back on the Livin' La Vida Low Carb show. And friends, it is such an honor to be guest hosting Jimmy Moore's brilliant show here, because not many people know this, but I got into podcasting because of Jimmy. I mean, truly, any success that I've had, and I've been so honored to see that the Calorie Myth and Smarter Science of Slim show has been well received, and I thank you all for that, because I know many of Jimmy's listeners also listen to our show. But truly, I am standing on the shoulders of a giant in Jimmy Moore, and I know everyone listening to this knows and loves Jimmy, but I just want to take a second to share my personal experience with Jimmy, and that was about, at this point, maybe 2 years ago, when my first book, The Smarter Science of Slim, came out. Jimmy was, I think, the very first podcast I was ever on, and Jimmy reached out because Tom Naughton, his friend and the amazing creator of the Fathead documentary, reached out to Jimmy and said Tom had read my first book, reached out to Jimmy, said, Jimmy, you need to check this out. Jimmy checked it out and invited me onto his show, and I had never been on a show before, and I had so much fun. And then I'm a geek, right? I'm a senior program manager at Microsoft, so all I do is research and work. So I hadn't really listened to podcasts at all before. Started listening to Jimmy's podcast, loved it, and thought to myself, man, I really like this. I wonder if I could do it. So I called Jimmy, which, again, Jimmy's got a million things going on, and he was kind enough to take my call, and he said, Jonathan, absolutely, man, do this. Jimmy Moore, I had no formal training in this, but I just went out and did it because I'm passionate about it, and I'm passionate about helping people to live better, as evidenced by his amazing show. And he lit that fire under me. He told me how to get started. He gave me the confidence to do it. And you can see now why I say, in many ways, everything that I have in terms of podcast or broadcast success is because of the man who created this amazing show that I am so honored to be guest hosting today, and that is Jimmy Moore. So let's all just together celebrate the awesomeness that is Jimmy, because truly it's hard to find someone who's more caring and empowering than Jimmy Moore. So Jimmy, sir, I salute you. We all salute you, and I so thank you for setting us all on a path to better health and giving me the honor of guest hosting your show today. And listeners, what I want to cover today, and I'm going to get a little bit amped up, is calorie myths. So as you've hopefully heard about, my second book, The Calorie Myth, launched on New Year's Eve. And it's been really well received, which is awesome, but it's also been challenged by some people, which we should expect, right? The great thinker Arthur Schopenhauer once said that truth passes through three phases. First, it is ridiculed. Second, it is violently opposed. And third, it is accepted as self-evident. And we've actually seen Jimmy's awesome story go through those same three phases, right? At first, people were like, oh, it's Jimmy Moore. They kind of ridiculed him. And then there's even some people recently, we know from this past year, who got a little angry and attacked him, who violently opposed him. And now it's pretty much accepted, as evidenced by Jimmy's awesome books, that this is just science he's communicating, and it works, and it's brilliant. So we're seeing the same thing with calories, right? Jimmy has helped people to overcome their fear of fat, and that is truth. It's not the mainstream, so there are people with vested interests who are going to oppose him, but it's truth, and the truth wins out on the long term. So with the calorie myth, we're trying to do the same thing with calories. And it's not saying that calories don't exist or that calories don't count. It's saying that calories are not a relevant measure for long-term fat loss and health. It's a bit like measuring intelligence with height. If you just look at a small child and then you look at an adult, you're like, oh yeah, the adults are generally smarter than children, so therefore the taller you are, the smarter you are, and no, that is not relevant. And we see the same kind of thing with calories. It's just not a relevant measure. And in fact, if we do use calories as the be-all, end-all, we end up in a very sick and twisted world. In fact, a world just like the world we live in today, right? If calories were simply the wrong measure, what we would expect is if you take a world and you tell that world calories are all you need to worry about, and they're really the arbiter of everything. So all things food related become irrelevant except for calorie counts, and all things exercise related become irrelevant except for how many calories you burn. What would happen in that world? Well, that's what has happened in our world and what has happened. We've all gotten worse. We've tried harder and gotten worse. Truly, think about this for a second. Nobody knew what a calorie was, let alone count them, prior to the obesity and diabetes epidemics. Therefore, how can counting calories be required to avoid obesity and diabetes? It can't. It simply can't. In fact, the introduction of calories into the food and exercise arena has led us to epidemic levels of these things, right? That is, if you go to a doctor's office and she writes you a prescription and you get worse, very, very much worse, and all of your friends and family take the same prescription and they get worse, you're not at fault. What's at fault is the guidance you've been given. We've been given guidance that's predicated on calories being the great common denominator, and that's just wrong. Again, I'm not saying, and the science isn't saying, because frankly, what I think is irrelevant, what is relevant is the proven science, is not that calories don't exist, or that if you eat 10,000 calories in a day, that you won't gain fat. What I'm saying, and what the science says, is that you can't need to consciously count calories. You can't. It cannot be true that that is required. And here are 3 common sense reasons why that is an indisputable fact. Okay, first, again, the premise here is not that calories don't count. They do. The premise is that you can't have to consciously balance them, and that the body is designed to balance you out automatically, just like it does for, say, blood sugar, right? Your blood sugar goes up, your body takes steps to bring it back down. Your blood sugar goes down, your body takes steps to bring it back up. And the existence of diabetes doesn't disprove that the body tries to automatically regulate blood sugar. It shows that the system designed to automatically regulate blood sugar can be broken down if we eat the wrong quality of food. Diabetes is not caused by consuming too many calories. It's caused by consuming the wrong types of foods. And it doesn't disprove that the body works to automatically balance blood sugar. It proves that that system can be broken down. Similarly, obesity does not disprove that the body tries to balance us out calorically automatically. What it shows is that that system can be broken down if we eat the wrong quality of food. So, we cannot be required to consciously count calories. Reason number 1. Nobody knew what a calorie was, right? Even the scientific community didn't know what a calorie was till the 1800s. So how did any human in any culture that ever lived avoid obesity? Because remember, the historic obesity rates were sub 3%, less than 3%. And the historic diabetes rates, as of 100 years ago, were 100,000% lower than they were today. So how did all of those people who ever lived in every culture avoid obesity and diabetes without trying? They didn't think about it. They weren't like, oh, let's go to the medieval gym and count the calories in this turkey leg that we're being served. No. They didn't do that. They just ate and lived, and they didn't become obese or diabetic. They didn't know what a calorie was, yet somehow they miraculously did that. Therefore, counting calories cannot be required. It cannot be required because nobody could do it prior to us having these problems. So that's reason number 1. Reason number 2, if we need to consciously regulate calories, then we can't just say, anyone who makes that argument can't just say, oh, you just need to consciously count calories. What they're actually arguing is that we need to consciously regulate mission-critical bodily functions. Because you can't just say, oh, just calories. Because what about vitamins and minerals? We need those. We need essential amino acids. We need essential fatty acids So what about vitamin C? Do we need to consciously regulate the amount of vitamin C we consume and the amount of vitamin C we excrete out either through our sweat or our urine or just that we use? Do we need to do that? What about vitamin E? How about vitamin A or D or K? Or what about riboflavin, thiamine, magnesium, zinc? What about every other essential component? What about leucine, the amino acid leucine? Do we need to consciously regulate the amount of leucine we consume and the amount of leucine our body uses so that we stay in leucine balance? Of course not. Why? Because if we had to spend our conscious energy manually regulating mission critical functions, we could not survive as a species. When you drink more water, you don't have to say, oh, well, remember, I have to go to the bathroom more frequently. Otherwise, I'm going to retain excess water. You don't need to do that. Your body takes care of that for you. If you don't sleep enough, you become more tired. If you put your body in a cold room, you get goosebumps. Your body takes steps to maintain your body temperature. Every other thing you consume, nobody says we need to manually regulate. No one's like, you got to understand how much vitamin C you're excreting in your urine, because if you don't, you may end up over or under consuming vitamin C. That doesn't mean vitamin C isn't important, and it doesn't mean we shouldn't go out of our way to eat foods that are high in vitamin C, but it means that this kindergarten logic of, well, you got to consciously regulate in and out doesn't work. Because if it was true, it would apply to more than just calories, and it clearly doesn't. That's the second reason we can't have to consciously regulate calories. We can't have to consciously regulate calories because if we did, then we would have to do that for more than just calories. It's not like the body would say, we'll take care of breaths in and breaths out. We'll take care of blood sugar. We'll take care of blood in and out of your heart. We'll take care of your blinking rate. We'll take care of water levels. We'll take care of amino acid levels. We'll take care of electrolyte levels. We'll take care of blood pressure. We'll take care of everything else except energy balance. You guys need to think about that one, right? It's ridiculous. It's not true. Our hypothalamus, our brain, regulates these mission critical functions, and we just need to keep our brain, our body, and our gut from breaking down so that it can keep us at a healthy level of body fat, just like it tries to keep us at a healthy level of blood pressure and a healthy level of blood sugar. Makes clear sense. Now, hold on a second. The third reason it cannot be required. Calorie counting, that is. The third reason calorie counting cannot be required is, so it's either required or it isn't. And if it's required, the reason it's required is because we need to precisely balance calories. Precisely. Because the average person eats about 1 million calories in a year. So even if we were off by 10%, that's 100,000 calories per year, which I can't do the math off the top of my head, but if you divide 100,000 calories by 3,500 calories in a pound of fat, I think that's somewhere around 20 or 30 pounds. So if we were off by just 10%, let's say we accidentally underate by 10% per year, then we would conceptually, according to this mythical metabolic math, lose 20 to 30 pounds a year until we weighed nothing, which is, of course, ridiculous, and that's because the body balances itself out. But the point is calorie counting is either required or it's not, and if it's required, the reason it's required is because we have to precisely do this, because if we don't, like, the body just sits back and does nothing. So the body is either involved, which is truth, or the body is not involved and we need to precisely balance calories. Now, precisely is the key word here, and it's the third reason this can't possibly be true. When I say this, again, it's the premise that you need to count calories, and frankly, that you need to think about calories at all is simply a distraction. If we forgot about calories completely, we would be better off, as evidenced by every single person who ever lived prior to the advent of the concept of a calorie, which is the vast majority of humanity. Anyway, I digress. Point is, if you need to count calories, the reason you need to do it is you need to do it precisely. That is impossible. Fact. It is a fact that it is impossible to precisely count calories. Here's why. First of all, from a calories in perspective, even if you only ate foods that have those little nutrition facts on the side, which is the most precise way to get calorie counts, because none of us are going to keep bomb kilometers in our purses or in our backpacks to precisely calculate the calories we take in at all moments. First, if you only ate foods with nutrition facts on them, which in and of itself is a bad idea because most real foods don't have nutrition facts on them. If you just go buy vegetables and meat and nuts and low sugar fruits, they just come like they exist in nature and there's no labels, and we don't need the labels because they're clearly food. And if you need to label something, that might be a sign that it might not be food. It might not be something we need to eat, but I digress. So let's say you only eat things that have nutrition labels on them. Even in that world, which nobody will do, but even in that world, you could still have a 10% margin of error, because studies have shown that those nutrition facts are only 90% accurate. 90% accurate, again, that seems good, but remember that 10% margin of error, that's 100,000 calories per year. So even in this fictional world where we do everything a person possibly could to count calories, we still can't do it precisely from a calories in perspective. But it's even more impossible. The reason for this, again, different calories do different things in our body, right? So if you're eating calories from protein and you count 100 calories of protein as equivalent to 100 calories of sugar, your calorie count is off. It's off. It's a fact, because protein, to be utilized as energy for your body, is very inefficient. It's not an energy source. It's a structural component for your body. So if we were to try to precisely count calories and we were to say, oh, I ate 100 calories of protein, okay, add 100 calories, and I ate 100 calories of starch, okay, add 100 calories, the math is already wrong, and it's horribly wrong, because the protein calories are way different within your body, just in terms of the actual energy load they can provide for you than the carbohydrate or fat calories you consume. So that's then there's more. There's more absurdity to calories in, but one of my favorites is calories out, because that is easily the hardest to calculate, and the one which we are led to believe is the simplest to calculate, as evidenced by all of these products, right? Buy this product, wear this product, and we will tell you how many calories out you're burning. That's wrong. And it's worse. Someone's like, oh, but it's helpful. Giving someone bad data is wrong than giving someone no data. It's not as if, oh, just take a medication. Any medication will do. Any medication is better than no medication. False. The wrong medication will make you worse. The wrong data will make you worse, because data influences your decisions. And if the data is wrong, your decisions can be wrong. So again, that's why we got to get away from using calories, because it's wrong. It's just a wrong thing. They do exist, but they are not the key arbiter. They're a small piece of a much bigger puzzle. We covered why you can't calculate calories in. Let's cover why you can't calculate calories out. So first, calories out is not fixed. This is a fundamental problem with this calorie myth. And that's, if you just eat 500 fewer calories, you now have a 500 calorie caloric deficit, and you'll burn 500 calories worth of fat. And this is wrong for so many reasons, which you can learn about in the Calorie Myth book. But just let's identify one key reason. If you eat 500 fewer calories, calories out changes. So if you change calories in, you will, this is a fact, you will change calories out. This has been demonstrated in every single scientific study ever that has measured it. Because again, the body tries to balance itself out. If you cut 500 calories out of your diet, calories out changes. It will go down. Your body will start to run slower. So let's say that you're trying to calculate calories out. You're trying to count calories. So you do your calorie math, and then you cut calories in by 500 calories. There's no way for you to know what calories out just did in response to that. So in fact, researchers, for example, Dr. Kezio for the University of Wisconsin tells us that there are disproportionately large declines in resting metabolism in food-deprived men or women, but his study looked at only men. In other words, if you consciously cut calories in, the body negates that by unconsciously counting calories out. So it's like, yay, we've got our calories out number. And then we go and we cut calories in. No, the calories out number is now irrelevant because the body will change it for us. Now, that calorie out number that we thought we had calculated but becomes wrong and irrelevant when we cut calories in because the body adapts, that number wasn't right in the first place. And that's because we cannot calculate calories out. We can't. Up to 70% of the calories we burn over the course of the day have nothing to do with physical movement. So any and every measurement tool that tells you these are the calories you burnt doing physical activity is giving you like a sliver, a teeny tiny sliver of your total calories out. And it's horribly inaccurate anyway. There's all kinds of giant consumers of calories that we cannot measure. When I say we, I mean people living in the real world. If you live in a metabolic ward and you're going through a study, certainly we can get better measures, but that's not a viable scenario for us living 24/7, 365 normal lives. If we wanted to calculate calories out, we would have to understand things like how many calories we burn through muscle protein synthesis or just synthesizing new tissue. The human body, when given sufficient doses of high quality protein, can create up to 250 grams of new literally new tissue per day. And researchers estimate that activity, building new can take up to 20 to 30% of the total calories you burn in a given day. We can't measure that. We also can't measure things like non-exercise activity thermogenesis. These are calories burned via involuntary movement, just by standing or walking or fidgeting. And this is a huge source of caloric burn. In fact, when people eat more calories, their body offsets them most often by increasing this number. So when you eat more calories, you just get more energy and you move more. Even if you don't realize it, you move more and your muscles move less efficiently, meaning they move and they use more calories to move. And we can't know that. We also can't know, for example, the number of calories we burn during digestion. This is called diet-induced thermogenesis, or DIT. And in a normal person, about 10% of calories eaten in the course of a day are burned simply turning those foods into usable energy in the body. No device you wear on your wrist is going to tell you how many calories you burnt that way. And even when we exercise, if we do smart exercise or higher quality, higher intensity, safer exercise, there's this thing called post-exercise oxygen consumption, or EPOC, which consists of the calories that are burned when we recover from intense exercise. So, for example, refilling the glycogen stores in our muscles and just rebuilding our muscles because we broke them down in a healthy way. You cannot know calories out accurately. You cannot know calories in accurately. And even if you could, less calories in or more calories out does not require us to burn body fat. This is that thermodynamic argument that is just wrong. And most people who make this the law of thermodynamics proves that if you eat less or exercise more, you have to burn body fat, are usually well-intended, but they're wrong. And it's very wrong. It's so wrong. First of all, there is no law of thermodynamics. There's 4. The 2 that matter when it comes to body weight and fat have to do with the fact that you cannot create or destroy energy. It can only change forms. So the logic that the mainstream uses is that if you eat less or exercise more, you create a caloric deficit, and your body has to burn fat to make up for that because energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It can only change forms. Now, hold on a second. What the applicable laws of thermodynamics do tell us is that if we do create a state of caloric deficit, and remember, that's not guaranteed. If you just eat less and exercise more, it is not guaranteed that you will be in a state of caloric deficit because the body could just slow down. If you eat 200 fewer calories and the number of calories you burn throughout the course of the day goes down by 200 because your body is adapting to fewer calories in, you are not in a caloric deficit. You are in energy balance. So remember, just eating fewer calories, as we talked about earlier, often results in a disproportionate decline in calories out. So it is not at all a foregone conclusion that if you eat less and exercise more, you will be in a state of caloric deficit. But let's say you are. If you are in a state of caloric deficit, what these mainstream individuals are arguing is that the applicable laws of thermodynamics say you have to burn body fat. That's false. That is patently false. What the applicable laws of thermodynamics do prove, and they do prove something, is that if, and that's a big if we're in a state of caloric deficit, these laws prove that our body has to do something. That is what they prove. In the field of thermodynamics, what is proven is that if we don't have enough energy coming into our body has to do something. What that something is, that has nothing to do with thermodynamics. That has to do with biology, right? We've got a system. Thermodynamic laws tell us that the system has to respond to a shortage of energy, but thermodynamic law does not show us what biologically the body has to do. That is an assumption, and it is a flawed assumption. The assumption is that, the way the body reacts is by burning fat. That is false. That is absolutely false. The way the body responds is by slowing down and burning muscle tissue, and then it may burn some fat, but once you've slowed down your body and burnt off your muscle tissue, you're pretty much in a bad state for the rest of your life, because if you ever stop starving yourself, you will now experience what researchers call fat superaccumulation, or a dramatic increase in fat stores, because you're not overeating, you're just eating a normal amount, but now your body's running slower and you have less muscle tissue to burn off those calories in the first place. So of course, in a surplus of energy, you're going to store some body fat. So these laws of thermodynamics are thrown around, but it's just not applicable. It's just not applicable at all. The real question is, how do we get our body to burn fat? Now, not how do we get our body to slow down and burn muscle tissue and maybe burn some fat? And that's what eating less and exercising more does do. And that's why it's been proven. This is a fact. It has been proven to fail in the long term 95.4% of the time. To be clear, that is a lower success rate than the success rate of quitting smoking cold turkey, and nicotine is the third most addictive substance in the world, trailing only heroin and cocaine. So, just eat less and exercise more, it's so simple. Except that it fails 95.4% of the time, and the reason it fails is because it doesn't address the underlying issue, which is the body's inability to burn fat in the first place. Think about this for a second. If an individual has excess fat on their body, a significant amount, let's say 50 pounds of excess fat on their body, why do they ever get hungry? We get hungry because our body needs energy, right? But if we have 50 pounds of fat on our body, we have whatever 50 times 3,500 calories. We've got hundreds of thousands of calories just chilling out on our body. Why would our body, more specifically our brain, tell us to consume more calories when we already have a surplus of calories on our body? The reason is because that body cannot readily use fat as energy. If it could, you wouldn't be hungry all the time if you had excess fat on your body. Because just because food isn't coming through your lips doesn't mean food can't be coming off your hips. The difference between eating some food and burning some stored energy from the body's perspective, it just needs energy. Just needs energy. So the question is not, how can you more effectively starve yourself? The question is, why isn't the body burning fat in the first place? And Jimmy, for example, the brilliant man, will tell you firsthand that when you adapt your body to burning fat, you will be hungry dramatically less than you were before. Why? Because your body is feeding itself on your stored body fat. So the point, again, are you in caloric excess, surplus, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't matter. 90+% of the population eats when they're hungry and stops when they're full. So the question is not, how did 70% of the American population spontaneously become lazy gluttons, which is what the mainstream leads us to believe, which is ridiculous. 70% of the American population did not spontaneously become lazy and stupid. That's dumb. And that's lazy and stupid thinking. And the people who are advocating that, they're the ones being lazy and stupid and degrading and mean for that point. The real question is, why is it that some people eat when they're full and stop and they don't get fat, and some people eat when they're full and stop and do get fat? Because that's what most people do. And that's the real question. And the answer is that the quality of food being consumed changes the way the body works, and it screws up our satiety signals. So we think we're hungry when we're not, and we don't correctly know when to stop eating because these satiety signals don't go to our brain, and our body loses its ability to readily burn calories. It's all kinds of nonsense is going on in the body, and it's consistent across anyone who struggles with these problems. Just like the underlying physiology of diabetes is consistent across all diabetic patients, the fundamental metabolic dysregulation in an obese individual is consistent across all obese individuals. There's inflammation in their brain, there's dysregulation of their hormones, and their gut bacteria is consistently different, and different in a negative way than the human gut bacteria is supposed to be. So it is a disease. It is a consistent disease across those who all have it. It is caused by the improper the consumption of improper things, edible products, aka processed starches and sweets and trans fats, which we're led to believe are okay because we're led to believe that a calorie is a calorie and calories are all that matter. So it really doesn't matter what you eat as long as you don't eat too much of it. And it really doesn't matter, especially because then you can just go for a jog and burn it all off, which of course every single step in that logic is flawed. We know, for example, diabetes is not caused by an overconsumption of calories. It's consumed by the wrong quality of food. Obesity is the exact same thing. So people can continue to have these calorie-based arguments all they want, but then they need to answer, hey, this isn't working. And people are dying in mass. Like millions of people are dying. The economic burden of just type 2 diabetes in the United States now exceeds the economic burden of tobacco by $50 million. Why are people still arguing about, this conventional approach that we've been preaching for the past 40 years is true? No, it's not working. It's not, and it's wrong. And the science is quite clear that it's wrong. So you can debate how right you are all day while people die. It seems socially irresponsible to me, especially when you've got people like Jimmy out there. You've got people like the paleo movement. You've got every successful lifestyle when it comes to food, even if we personally don't agree with all of them. But think about the ones that actually people stick with and does have health outcomes which are better than the mainstream diet. So we've got low carb lifestyle, we've got paleo, we've got veganism, vegetarianism, we've got low glycemic, Mediterranean, kosher, halal, all of those, every single one of them. Again, we might not agree with all of them, but they're certainly all better than a conventional American diet. All of them change food quality. Vegans aren't counting calories. Kosher people are not counting calories. Paleo practitioners are not counting calories. Low carb lifestyle livers are not counting calories. They are saying, we're going to eat these things and not these other things. They're manipulating food quality instead of futzing with calorie quantity. And that's why they work. Futzing consciously with calorie quantity cannot work. It cannot work long time. And I'm going to define work as it's sustainable, it's enjoyable, it heals you, it doesn't kill you slowly. It helps your health, and it helps you to burn fat rather than just slowing down and burning muscle tissue. Starvation, aka manipulating calorie quantity with no regard for food quality, cannot work for one simple reason. Hunger isn't sustainable. Bottom line. Your body will make you feel like crap if it believes you're starving. And if all you do is cut calories, you will feel like you're starving. And then you will feel like crap. We've all experienced this. Our body slows down. Our brain becomes foggy. We're in a bad mood. Why? Because we're starving. It's like trying to not go to the bathroom. Could you imagine like the next fad diet is like, just don't go to the bathroom as often, or just don't sleep as much, or just don't blink as much. Eating is a baseline function. If we try to fight our body's desire to eat, we will not live an enjoyable life long term. So the only way, as proven by science, as proven by common sense, as proven by the entirety of human history, and as proven by every successful dietary lifestyle out there, is through the manipulation of food quality. Not calorie quantity, but food quality. That's not saying that calories don't exist and that there's like a unicorn and it's got calories because this is some fictional like leprechaun. No. Calories exist. It's just not the right measure. It is a myth. And it is a myth that has caused the obesity and diabetes epidemics because it's the wrong measure, and giving people bad data is worse than giving people no data. And frankly, we shouldn't need data in the first place, because if we needed data, how does any animal ever not become obese or diabetic? Because frankly, we are the only animal that can do anything with data. If you give a cat data, it doesn't know what to do. Yet somehow, cats, left to their own devices, don't become obese or diabetic. Are we to believe that we are less capable than a cat? False. What is true is that we are brilliant. We are not some way inadequate, and we need conscious intervention because we're just weak and blah, 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 blah. That is weak logic, and it's wrong logic, and it's killing us. And the sooner we can let go of calorie quantity and embrace food quality, we will do a couple things. First, we will automatically eat the correct number of calories, as evidenced by the fact that every single person who ever lived across any culture ever did not struggle with obesity or diabetes nearly as much as we do today. And they didn't think about it. All they did was eat things you can find in nature. They ate higher quality diets, and therefore they experienced higher quality health. The second thing that will happen is we will reduce the neurological inflammation at the heart of obesity. We will reduce the biological dysregulation at the heart of obesity, and we will heal our gut bacteria. And when we do that, you'll be shocked to find out that the body again restores its ability to unconsciously balance us out around a healthy body composition. We'll also flood our body with nutrients, cutting calories. So taking a nutritionally vapid standard American diet and just eating less of it takes a diet that is already nutritionally deficient and makes it even more nutritionally deficient because you're now eating even less of it. So these vitamins and minerals that we must have, you got even fewer of them. Whereas when you increase the quantity of food you are eating and increasing the quality of that food, first, you won't overeat because it's impossible to overeat if you eat the right quality of food. Second, you'll do all the healing we just talked about. And third, you will have an abundance of nutrition, not a shortage. And if you have a broken metabolic system, which is what happens in the state of obesity and diabetes, you know what a great way to heal that system is? Provide your body with an abundance of the things it needs to heal itself. If you break your ankle, there's no magic dance we need to do for our ankle to heal. We just need to get out of the body's way and let the body heal our ankle. A broken metabolism works the same way. There are things we can do to help, just like with your ankle, you can put it in a cast, you can elevate it, you can ice it. Same thing here. When we eat an abundance of healthy, high-quality food, we flood our body with nutrition, we help it to heal itself, we re-regulate our hormones, our gut bacteria, and our hypothalamic activity. And we naturally, just like every other person and every other species on the planet does, automatically and unconsciously eat the proper number of calories and burn the required number of calories to stay at a healthy body fat percentage. That is how the body actually works. And this is why people like the great Jimmy Moore and all of you amazing listeners have experienced such wonderful benefits without being hungry simply by changing the quality of foods you're eating. The end of obesity and end of diabetes will come easily the day the mainstream stops preaching the disproven theories of calorie quantity, which I call the calorie myths, and starts embracing the proven science of food quality. The latter is true, and it celebrates the innate brilliance of our bodies and brains. The former, the calorie myth, is false and is degrading to humans, and we need to throw it out the window. And I'm so thankful to have people like Jimmy Moore preaching this message and living this message, and I'm so thrilled that all of you are doing so as well. And I got to make the one plug here, of course. If you like what you've heard today, there is a lot more science as well as practical how-tos that literally rewrite the book on calories and food and weight in the new book, The Calorie Myth, which is not my opinion. It's not just like another one of these diet books. It's the culmination of over 13 years of research with top researchers around the world. We're talking Harvard Medical School, Johns Hopkins, UCLA, over 1,300 studies talking about the neurobiology and gastroenterology and endocrinology that underlies body weight regulation. And it literally dismantles point by point these calorie myths, provides you with the proven alternative and the steps by which you can live a simple lifestyle of eating whenever you want, as much as you want, as long as you eat the right quality of food. Thank you again so much for tuning in to the Livin' La Vida Low Carb Show, for your continued support of Jimmy, because he is awesome and we should all support him. And if you wouldn't mind, I would so appreciate you popping over to caloriemythbook.com. Again, that's caloriemythbook.com. Grabbing a copy of the book. On Kindle, it's like $13. If you want a hardback, it's less than $20. And there is no more economical source of 1,300 studies worth of science simplified and applied than you'll find in the Calorie Myth book. Thank you so much for sharing your time and attention with me today. And again, please free yourself from these calorie myths. Eat as much as you want, whenever you want. Just focus on food quality rather than calorie quantity. And if you need any help with that, please pick up a copy of the Calorie Myth book. It will absolutely help you to live your best life through proven science rather than disproven theories. My name's Jonathan Bailor. This is the Livin' La Vida Low Carb Show. Remember, this week and every week after, eat smarter, exercise smarter, and live better. Chat with you soon. Wait, don't stop listening yet.
You can get fabulous free SANE recipes over at carriebrown.com.
And don't forget your 100% free eating and exercise quick start program, as well as free, fun, daily tips delivered right into your inbox at bailorgroup.com. That's BAILOR group.com.